Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's Coach's Corner. For those of you who are new to the group, I want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Penny Handsome. I'm a holistic mindset and lifestyle coach, along with being a trainer, yoga instructor, wellness facilitator, and co-host of this group and a co-owner of Lux Life Coaching with Coach Lisa Boston. So we have, Coach Lisa and I have put together kind of tandem videos for this month because we understand that coming into the holiday season can be a lot for some people. So if you didn't catch her live on Wednesday, I recommend it. She's got a lot of great advice in there at how to manage the stress with supplements and minerals and what you need in your body to help you get through this holiday season. I'm going to talk about how the stress relates to our emotional eating and how we can avoid that with some tips and how we can actually move through and move past that emotional eating that everybody seems to do and enjoy your holiday. Because quite honestly, if we really look at the basis of what the holiday is, it's about spending time with family. Okay, so I've been watching posts on social media, and there's this the woman she posted this morning, and she was absolutely crying, stressed out because she hasn't, made her cookies last month, and she didn't get all her Christmas shopping done, and she hasn't done, there's just a list of things that she felt she should have had done since October to now. You know what the fun part is about the holiday? You don't have to do anything. We choose what we do. Okay, you can make this holiday anything you want. So, we do know from Morning Carol, we do know from science, we know from papers, we know from social media that this is a tough time of year for a lot of people, especially if they don't have the family that they want, or they don't have, they have all these expectations that they've put on themselves, and the only one putting the expectation is you. Okay, so which leads us into the emotional eating. And, I watched social media, and I watched it after our Canadian Thanksgiving, so that was in October, and then the American Thanksgiving, November, just in case, nobody knows when they are. And everybody had the same thing. Oh, I overate. Oh, it was a stressful time. Oh, it was this. Oh, my family was this. We're arguing. I ate too much. I overindulged. I don't know why. Okay, so let's talk about the why we overindulge and we emotionally eat. So what we're really looking at from a perspective of our habits, our mindset, the triggers that are going on, it's kind of like one of those things where you in the back of your head, you're like, well, it's the holidays, I can do it. But there's a lot of holidays, and there's really no reason to do it, but we get in a pattern. So those patterns become our habits. So the habits over the course of time become, oh, it's the holidays, I'm going to overindulge. There's Christmas parties. I'm going to drink a lot of wine. Oh, I can just eat it now. I'll worry about it later. But then the later never happens because you kind of just continue with that. So what we're looking at is when your stress levels go up, right? Or you're feeling lonely, or feeling sad, anxious, bored, always a good one, right? So what happens is when these emotions kick in, which what I always call they're the low vibration emotions, and there's no good emotions, bad emotions. There's a space at the table for all emotions. It's how you manage them. That is the difference of what we want to look at. So if you've got family members who from past experiences are going to trigger you because they're going to bring up bullshit. Like my brothers used to do this all the time. And it was just because they're my brothers, because they're just kind of idiots sometimes. And, you get to a family occasion and there's people around and they're just they're drinking and they're just oh, and they'd be like, oh, remember when you did this? Like some stupid thing that I did when I was 15. I'm 56. I'm not the stupid kid anymore, but those are the kind of things that our siblings, our cousins, our family, they will do that. They'll poke and they'll needle because that's what they do. And it's a pattern, which becomes a habit. So what happens is then those triggers every year, They go in, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm drinking more wine, I'm eating more bonbons, and I'm stuffing my face full of like mashed potatoes and gravy, and I didn't even want to. I just wanted to like cover up how I was feeling. Okay, so when we look at the emotional eating and how we do that, we want to look at the science behind that. So when you're in a stressful situation, what's happening is your cortisol levels are rising, and then the release of that hormone is there to help protect your body. So if the problem is when we're already living in a stressful state, day after day after day, those levels can get really, really high. And the thing is, your body is built to actually have stress responses. Okay, if we think of the wild and we think of like, you know, the zebra being chased by the lion, he's gonna have he's gonna have a cortisol spike. Why? Because it's gonna like that plus adrenaline, so he can run away and save himself, and he's not going to get eaten by the lion. But then what happens is the lion's gone away and the zebra gets to go, I'm good. And the stress levels come back down. Normal. Okay? But now we have we have modern society, and we have people who are sitting in, if you're in Toronto and you've ever been on the 401, wow. Or any traffic jam. Come on, anywhere. Snow on the road, you're late, you left 3 minutes late, which changes the traffic pattern, and now you're stressed out. So now you're stressed about things that are just A, you can't control, B, not really why the body was why the body has these mechanisms in them. Like our stress responses are for danger. But unfortunately, when we build our own stress, we build the anxiety, we build the depression, it all comes into a flow. And then so your body is in this constant state of fight or flight. So your levels are up here all the time. They're never coming back down, which puts us into the functional freeze. Procrastination, overwhelm, not feeling good about ourselves. Here comes the eating. Here comes all the triggers. Here comes the patterns, our developed habits, right? So when we look at the amount of stress that we put on ourselves, and it's like, oh, I wasn't able to spend as much money on gifts this year, which I'm pretty sure is for everybody since COVID, right? So like we get stressed about, I didn't get the decorations up. I didn't bake the cookies. Oh, I couldn't find this. Oh, I couldn't afford this. I should be doing more. There's no should. That's building your own stress and creating a story in your head that's creating your anxiety that doesn't need to be there. So this is what we call our drama cycle. And we all do it. I'm prone to doing it too. I just know how to talk myself out of it. And then when we get there, here comes the emotional eating. Okay, so what we're doing is avoiding. We're trying to avoid how we're feeling. We're trying to numb our feelings, and we're trying to escape. And then we're trying to compensate. So, I can't do this for this. I can't, spend $200 per gift on every single person. So I'm just going to eat like a bag of chips, and I'm going to sit in front of Netflix with that glass of wine, and I'm going to like dive into that bag of chips, and I'm not stopping till I hit the bottom of it. Ever been there? I know I've been there. I have totally been there. Right? So when we look at how do we make that change, right? Because we all understand emotional eating. It could be, also you're missing loved ones during the holidays, can't travel, can't get to see who you want to see, all of these things. Whatever the emotional connection is for you, everybody's going to be different. The result is still the same. We're still looking to compensate with food. Okay, so how do we avoid that? How do we move out of our emotional eating? First and foremost, and I've talked about this in many other videos. Is that even a sentence? That's not even grammatically correct. A lot of other ones. We need to acknowledge the fact we're doing it. Okay? So when we acknowledge that we're emotionally eating, we acknowledge that, what am I doing? I'm like, and that's all it takes. You just sit there and go, what am I doing? Why am I eating this? Does this make me feel good? Okay, it's making me feel good, but is it really making me feel better? Okay, the answer is usually no. So that's first. That's the first stepping point of putting your toe in the water to go, maybe I should do something different. Acknowledging and saying, why am I sitting here in the dark watching Netflix, watching the latest Hallmark holiday love couple? We all know she moves from the big city, marries the local town guy, they live happily ever after. We all know that. It's Hallmark. But then the question is, and then you need to acknowledge, I'm like, okay, so what am I avoiding? Am I just feeling it? Am I enjoying this glass of wine? Or am I just drinking it? Am I enjoying what am I eating? Okay, that's your acknowledgement. And if the answers come up with like, ugh, I don't know why I'm doing this. Okay, that's a pretty good indication of that you're emotionally eating. So we want to, work now at stopping it. So first we have, we're acknowledging and moving through that. Okay, so what happens too is, because we're putting so much pressure on ourselves, then here comes the other fun one. This one's awesome. The thing is, once you started eating something you know that you don't need to eat, you're going to continue to eat it. Why? Because deep down, rooted into our systems of patterns and belief system, don't waste food. How many of you guys grew up with your mom or your dad saying, eat the food that's on your plate, don't waste food, there's kids starving in Africa? All the time. I'm Gen Xer, so my parents said that constantly. So then we have this like rooted belief system of, oh my God, I can't waste food. So even though now you're deep into like the Oreo box and you're like, oh, I'm halfway, well, it's like, well, I don't want to waste the food. And you don't even realize that that's really what's going on, is that because you're going to continue to eat and you're like, well, I can't waste it. I started it. I am here to give you absolute permission that you can just throw it out. You do not have to continue to eat it. Okay? So when we look at how do we stop the emotional eating, again, it's like, why am I doing this? What am I missing? Okay? So for a lot of us, this could actually trigger a lot of emotions that are coming up. So I really want to say this first and foremost is, if you need to get help to find to categorize all this and like move through the emotions that are attached to the eating or the holidays or your stress levels, then you want to reach out and for somebody with help with that. So, but we also want to look at the pressure that we're putting on us. So as we're moving through, and I already talked about being like asking yourself why, which comes into the tip of being mindfully eating. Okay, so when we're having holiday meals, it doesn't have to look like it looked every single year for the past 25 years. It can look the way you want it to look going forward, right? So we want to move ourselves and our bodies out of the fight or flight mode and into a rest and digest mode so that you're comfortable with what you're eating. Okay, so if you're looking at your plate and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't know how I got this mound of mashed potatoes and how did I get so much stuffing and where did all that turkey come from, or whatever your holiday meal is, right? Take a look at why you've got that. So that becomes mindfully eating on that. So the other thing too is when we come to holiday parties, maybe it's not a full meal, maybe there's just lots of snacks around, there's a lot of stuff on the coffee table, you've got bowls of chips, you've got like your cheese platter, like I can't even say it, that board with the meat and the cheese and the olives and the stuff. I know you all know the name, I just can't say it. So when you look at something, if you're craving something sweet, so there's a bowl of chocolates there and you're like, oh, I'm going to have like one. And next thing you know, you've got 10, right? Maybe there's some fruit. Cut up an apple. That's really sweet. Have an orange. That's really sweet. Have some food before you go out so that you're not feeling the need to snack. But really what we're talking about is emotional eating. And for a lot of people, gatherings can feel stressful. And you're thinking like, but I'm not stressed. I really wanted to go. It's just natural. It's just like their body's chemical reaction to a group of people. And if you're not completely 1000% comfortable, if you find yourself grabbing and snacking on a bunch of food that you don't need, that's emotional eating. If you're not hungry and you're eating, that's emotional eating. Okay, if your portion sizes are out of control, that's emotional eating. Okay, so if they have hummus or if they have like deviled eggs, who doesn't love deviled eggs? I mean, they're super awesome. Those are something that you can eat instead that are higher in protein, and also they're going to fill you up. And they're going to give you that feeling of like you ate something really savory, or the apple, like say the apple or something that's really sweet. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go to a party and enjoy a drink or enjoy an hors d'oeuvre or have something, but if you find yourself continually gorging yourself, like, let's be honest, those hors d'oeuvres are super awesome, but they're little calorie bombs. Like, bombs. So you want to just be mindful of, like, you know, why are you stuffing your face? Are you bored? Are you lonely? Are you sad? Are you anxious? So these are the questions when we talk about the emotional eating, is what's going on. So, and I talked about also habits and your patterns. If you've been doing this for many, many years, right? Like 5+ years, it's now a pattern, it's now a habit. Okay, so Coach Lisa and I talk about habits all the time. Your habit is every single thing you do is in actual fact a habit. Whether you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is grab your phone and take a look at it, that's a habit. Or if you wake up in the morning and you grab a glass of water and you drink a glass of water and then you go pee, that's a habit. Which habit do you want, right? So it becomes which habits are going to help you, or which habits are going to hinder the lifestyle and the health and the well-being that you want. So the other thing I talked about the other week, I think it was 2 weeks ago, is about setting boundaries and how to set your boundaries. So I want to reiterate that here, because this will help you with your emotional eating, especially with friends and family. If you're going somewhere and you're not completely comfortable for any given reason, or you're not even sure what that reason is, you can set some boundaries. I made the comment earlier about my brother. He used to make these comments all the time. So my boundary was, if you bring this up, I'm leaving. Right? So, I mean, this one's a little gruesome, but he used to, like, you know, my brother, you know, he's a bit of an alcoholic. So he would drink at family functions, and then he would, once he was like, or in front of friends too, and every time he'd be like, oh, you know, you think, like, you know, you used to eat Smarties out of the bottom of your purse. And he just blurted out for no apparent reason. It wasn't even part of the conversation. He just blurted out because for whatever reason, he was feeling anxious, he was feeling stressed, and left out of the conversation. So his ideal was to bring me down. Now, I will point out that yes, I did. I used to eat Smarties out of the bottom of my purse. The year after my son died, I ate anything. I used to carry Smarties all the time. They made me feel good. After my son died, I don't do that anymore. But he still pulls it forward. So the boundary I set was, if you make a comment to try to make me feel bad about something I did as a coping mechanism in a stressful situation of my life, catastrophic actually, I'm leaving. Now when you set your boundaries and they do the action, guess what? You go home, which is what I would do. Happened twice. He never brought it up again. So these are the things you can do in order to help yourself so that you're not feeling stressed out, you're not feeling sad or anxious, and you're not emotionally eating. So it really comes into the choices that you want to make for yourself. You can choose how the holidays are going to go. So you can choose that they're going to be great. Whatever happens, maybe you don't get the tree, all the stuff up on the tree. Maybe you don't get all the cooking, the baking done. Maybe you start delegating out and say, hey guys, I can't do all this. You have to bring stuff. Maybe you don't get the lights on the house on the outside. Who cares? Because let's remember what the holidays are about. The people that you want to spend time with. Okay? And if you don't want to spend time with those people, you don't have to. Just giving that permission out right there. So, remember what they are for. The holidays are for family. The holidays are for you feeling good, not just everybody else, because you're important and you're perfect. So, when we look at the emotional eating, remember we're going to look at, am I stressed out? Am I lonely? Am I sad? Am I anxious? Or am I bored? Am I eating even though I'm full? Am I snacking even though like I don't need to? Or or my portion size is too big? These are all things that lead into, do I have them all? I just want to check my notes. Dun, dun, dun. Oh yeah, no, here's the last one. I did forget one. Is using our food as a reward or to soothe our feelings. I think I covered that one. That whole, I just want a little treat for myself. That's emotional eating. So if you're thinking about if you're shopping and you're stressed, you got carrying 700 bags and you're walking out of the mall and you're like, you walk past Starbucks and you're like, let's get myself a little treat. That's emotional eating. Ask yourself why. And then go forward. Guys, if you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comments below what triggers you to emotional eat. What do you notice in yourself that you fall into the category of emotional eating? And then if you've got a question about that, let me know in the comments and I will answer that and help you get through the next 2 weeks, because I think Christmas is in 2 weeks. What day is it? Oh yeah, exactly, 12 days. So let's get through this holiday season with some joy, some laughs, and some fun, and leave the stress back. Guys, that's me for this week, and we'll see you next Friday.